Security. Okay. So we need to figure out what parts of Crew for Hire need to change in order to become Cyberpunk without changing the core mechanics of the game to make it all work the same. Okay. So the map could probably stay mostly... Well, okay, so here's the trouble with the map. Cyberpunk tends to exist like in a city. In all the other stuff that we've seen, it's usually a city of some kind. And our current map is a whole world. But I think we could get away with what we originally had as locations on a world map, make that into a city map with different places to go within a city.
Okay.
Because a cyberpunk city should be pretty diverse, right? The thing we're going to run into is on the original Steampunk world map, we had civilized locations.
Right.
And then we had hazardous ones or dangerous places.
Well, we can still do that in a city.
Yeah, but what if our dystopian world was like Judge Dredd, where you have this giant city and then right outside is a whole bunch of Mad Max wasteland? And what if we had locations outside of a city that were like wasteland locations, and that could be sort of the translation of what we considered hazardous places in the original Steampunk game?
That's probably doable. The trick will be getting people to want to go to the hazardous places, because we had that intermix so that you had to go through those originally.
Right. So that just means we need something there that they want.
Right.
Something there that they want.
So we had the time portal.
People went through the time portal in the Steampunk to get treasures that gave them static abilities added to their ship, or aether crystals, which were worth either a lot of trade value or could like boost a skill, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
Yeah, you could boost a skill short term.
So maybe we need some kind of translation of the aether crystals into something for this cyberpunk world that makes it something the players want.
So outside of the city is wasteland. I'm guessing inside of the city is probably not the cleanest, most sanitary place.
Yeah.
So I know with like Blade Runner and whatnot, you've got the acid rain and pollution and that's all going to be just bad air, whatnot. Maybe there's something that we can get them to bring back that will improve life, like through like some kind of purification.
So a substance that can purify anything.
Right. If you run it through a filter, it can purify water, can purify air, can purify, make stuff usable. Then obviously it's going to be hard to come by, hard to refine.
Right. Or if you grind it up, maybe, it could be a weird drug of some kind that gives people temporary boost in skill or something.
It purifies the human genome and gives you superpowers for a short time.
Right. Oh man, okay. Well, what if we just call it pure?
Okay, let's do that. I like that.
So pure is either like in the wasteland, like some kind of rare element, but in the Steampunk game they had to go through a time portal to get it. So a time portal seems very steampunky, not very cyberpunky.
Well, in the past, it's not like you could just find some mineral that would cure pollution either. So this needs to maybe be a portal to somewhere else.
So like a wormhole.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what the time portal was to begin with. It was a wormhole to the past.
Well, it was a wormhole to an alternate reality of this, because it was called the Ruined World. So it was when time split, there was the world that became steampunk and the world that was desolate, and so crossing over into that desolate place, you could pick up artifacts and stuff because it was an alternate or parallel reality. Mm-hmm. But a wormhole, cyberpunk is basically science fiction, so a wormhole could take us anywhere. So this element that we're calling pure, it could just be alien. Yeah, or just like on some kind of other parallel dimension, something. Yeah, which is alien. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's alien. So if we put this wormhole in the Mad Max wastelands of our map, mm-hmm. then they would have to cross the wastelands to be able to go get the pure. Right. What's another word for black hole? There's another word there. Not within the horizon. I'm trying to think. It'll come to me. Singularity?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's call it a singularity.
I like that.
Okay.
Singularity. We can make it that. Okay, so this singularity, and in the steampunk game, the time portal could move around locations. So obviously, we need to keep that mechanic, but maybe it needs to be relegated to just the wastelands territory.
Yeah, because otherwise, there's no reason to go out there.
Right. If we want people to enter the wasteland, then the singularity needs to stay out there somewhere among those locations for people to travel
kind of
through.
Like it just kind of goes back and forth almost on a path.
Maybe. But in the original mechanics had other people determine its path by card play of moving it a location here and there.
But it doesn't deviate from like this line, trail, whatever have you.
No, I think that works. So they want that, and it's basically a translation of our Aether Crystals. So it boosts your skills. Mm-hmm. It gives you a lot of trade value. We experimented before with Aether Crystals being a way to get points to win the game. We could experiment with that again if we really want this to be a main goal of the game.
I'm sure, yeah, because if obviously this is a very sought after commodity, so you could trade it for any number of things, and one of those being victory points.
Potentially, yeah, and if we're talking about it's a substance that is highly sought after within the city, then it only makes sense that if you're able to sell it off, that you should get something for that other than just money. On a turn.
It's priceless.
Yeah. And if it's difficult enough to get to and is equivalent in difficulty to other ways of getting victory points, mm-hmm. then that could be a viable option for as a path to winning the game. But let's put pure aside for a second, because that just made me think about another major part of the game that needs to be translated, and that's what functioned as the Marshals in the Steampunk game, because they were like the police force that was chasing people that were doing illegal things, and if you got too many wanted tokens, then you would get stopped by the Marshals. You'd roll the dice for crew members, and some of those crew members might go away and get arrested.
Yeah, very true.
And so, obviously the most direct translation for that into Cyberpunk would be police. If you're doing illegal activities, the police come after you, and then you suffer similar consequences.
But it seems like it would. The police, especially in such a large scale city, even though you've got like Judge Dredd and whatnot. Maybe there needs to be an underlying enforcement.
So
something
to do with gangs are a big part of Cyberpunk, right?
Right.
And I guess if the enforcement in the game or the AI replacement of the Marshals was a gang, then
they wouldn't have to play by rules. It wouldn't be as restricted as far as retaliation.
And I think it makes for a more interesting story for it to be run by, for whatever part of the city we're making this map out of. This particular section of city that borders on the wastelands is run by some kind of big gang, as opposed to a police force. Maybe the police are scared of the gang, for all we know. But a gang could be really interesting, because then that feels more nefarious mm-hmm. than just cops.
Right.
So okay. So I'll make note of looking at making that into a gang and potentially coming up with an interesting name for them.
Okay.
And
so city gang.
Yeah, so it's a city gang that runs that part of the city at least.
Okay. So when we went through hazardous locations before, we still had to roll.
But that was like random encounters. It was like fairies in the air ducts and like different things like that had to do with the skill sets.
Are we just going to have environmental again, or
it could be random encounters? But then what would random encounters in a dystopian wasteland look like? Like if we think about it in terms of like things like Judge Dredd and Mad Max, then there's also random gangs and groups of people running around the wasteland, just kind of holding up their own territories as well.
I'm kind of thinking like Book of Eli, kind of just like, because there's like little bitty bands, but then, when you get to a central location, there's just like one, I guess, overlord or whatever you would want to say. And, it's still not a full-on gang, but the town is kind of band together to follow this one person. And so, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so it's like, it'd be like wasteland settlements, and that group of people is going to be very protective of their territory.
Right.
And probably don't like...
Not keen to outsiders.
Not keen to people traveling through it.
Right.
So that could create problems for our player characters, and be a good translation for the hazards that steampunk airships would run into in the hazardous locations. Mm-hmm. So we could get a little bit more specific about the kinds of dangerous situations that they would run into based on
old people cannibals.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So that takes care of two major parts of the map. The other part of the map that was relevant to how the game worked was in those civilized areas, we had it divided among 3 factions of player characters, and depending on which faction you were sitting on was which job pile you could pull from.
Right. Whether that was,
I think we called them mercenaries.
Mm-hmm. It was red, green, and blue.
Yeah. The green was mercenary.
Right.
The blue was...
It was the civilized, whatever. I can't remember what it was now.
Unified.
Unified, okay.
Yep. So it was green mercenary, blue unified, and red was criminal. Mm-hmm. I think we might have had a different name than criminal, but the idea is there. So we had these 3 factions for the different job piles and stuff. So if we're going to have that on our map, then yeah, I guess that leads us right into factions. And
these aren't gangs; these are actual factions. Okay.
Right. These will be according to the player characters.
Okay.
So yeah, we definitely need to figure out what the 3 factions are for our player characters.
Okay. Well, you're more versed in Cyberpunk, so.
That's